Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Crowder College. On behalf of well, I'll let the Board of Trustees speak for themselves, but on behalf of the faculty and staff and the students, that's why we're in this building, welcome you to campus. We are glad you're here for this celebration. The MARET Center, that is officially the Roy Blunt Missouri Alternative and Renewable Energy Technology Center. Did I get that right, Art? I got it right. So Art Boyd's going to keep me straight on this. But we have been awarded the platinum certification by LEED, the Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. You know, I always thought higher ed was bad for acronyms, and I think construction and design's right up there with us. But anyway, like I say, we're glad you're here. You know, Crowder has a long history in renewable and alternative energy. Going back to really burst on the scene, was it 1984, I think, Art? 1984. Solar car left San Diego, California, traveled across the southern United States and ended up in Jacksonville, Florida, the first automobile to cross the USA totally on solar energy. It started off in being, my background is history. I thought this was very appropriate. It started out as the Tsar, but in Arizona, ran into a little thunderstorm, high winds, caused severe damage to the car, but it was virtually rebuilt and renamed the Phoenix. Now, that's not Phoenix, Arizona. That's not because it was in Arizona, but Phoenix because it arose from the ashes and continued the first vehicle. And since then, Crowder has been active in competitions in solar and wind, been right up there with the MITs and the Notre Dames in terms of achievements in this area. And now we're here gathered in this center to celebrate the LEED Platinum. You know, there are 3 facilities on Missouri Community College campuses that are LEED certified. 2 of them are right here. This is the other one's at St. Louis Community College. This is the only Platinum, which is the highest certification LEED awards. So it's something to be proud of. And something like I told Dr. Oates, who's the director of the program, I said, Melissa, you know, if you're going to talk the talk, you got to walk the walk, and we have done that with this facility. So, again, we're glad that you all are here. And with that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Andy Wood, who is the chairman of the Board of Trustees.
Thank you, Dr. Burke. You and I are the people to get up here and talk and sit down so the important people can get up here and talk, the important people. I am up here today on behalf of the Board of Trustees, and we do have here, besides myself, Dr. Al Chapman and Diane Andrus. I guess those are the only 2 that could make it here today. Just wanted to say on behalf of the Board of Trustees, today marks another celebration of achievement for the MARET Center. As most of you who are here today are aware, the MARET Center began as the dream of Mr. Art Boyd sitting there. Art then, along with Dr. Kent Farnsworth and Dr. Alan Marble, nurtured Art's dream, and along with the MARET Center's namesake, Senator Roy Blunt, who also obtained $3 million in grant funds for this MARET Center from the Department of Energy, which was matched by local donations from folks in the area and folks sitting in the crowd here today, and from Crowder College, this dream became reality. I would also like to emphasize the board that Mr. David Crom sitting here today, who you'll hear from in a few minutes, who was not only the architect in this project, but in many ways, I think this was his child. This was his child in many ways, and we really appreciate David. While those pioneers set the foundation for achieving this platinum certification today, our current director, Dr. Melissa Oates, along with our former president, Dr. Jennifer Methvin, and our next president, Dr. Glenn Cotharp, who couldn't be here today, were able to continue the hard work to achieve this platinum certification. When the MARET Center was being designed and built, the Board of Trustees were kept informed of the importance and difficulty of achieving this platinum certification. Like Dr. Burke already talked about, we're one of only, in Missouri community colleges, we have 2 of the 3 buildings that have the LEED certification. We're very proud of that. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, we thank Dr. Oates and all of her predecessors for this outstanding achievement. Thank you. Next, with Dr. Melissa Oates. There she is.
Good afternoon. I'm very thankful for the support of our board and administrators here at Crowder College, and thank you to all of you who are here celebrating with us this LEED Platinum status. Over the years, Crowder Alternative Energy Program has gained much fame and notoriety. Our small community college in Southwest Missouri has competed against four-year universities, Ivy League schools, and even corporations in events ranging from solar races to ethanol vehicle challenges to solar homes. And while it's impressive that our students represented Crowder on both the national and international stage, what's even more impressive is that up until just 6 years ago, all of the planning, all of the work, all of the magic happened in a dilapidated building on the backside of campus that's part of the Camp Crowder days. Today we offer classes, labs, and workshops in this $6 million facility. It includes 65,000 watts of solar panels that provide about 55% of our electrical needs. Once the 65 kilowatt turbine is operational, we will be a net positive building. I will allow David Crum and Michael Liss from KRJ Architects to share other details of the building, but suffice it to say that the design and the construction of this building incorporated many innovative and environmentally friendly elements. In fact, Crowder was awarded a patent in December of 2016 for the bifield solar geothermal system, which incorporates hot and cold water that runs to and from the geothermal system and the PV panels to increase the efficiency of both the HVAC system and the solar panels themselves. Today's celebration of LEED Platinum status is not a coincidence nor an accident. The MARET Center building is the culmination of many dreams and aspirations. Art Voigt shared with me that, in the early 1990s, 25 years ago, he and Dr. Kent Farnsworth, who was then Crowder's president and a big supporter of alternative energy programs, they brainstormed about what a new building for alternative energy might look like. Art shared that in the months shortly after the dedication of the 2002 Solar Decathlon home, he and David Crum again spent time imagining what the footprint, features, and design of a new building would be. We are standing in that building today. I would like to take a few moments and recognize those who were involved in the dreaming, the planning, and the design stages of the MARET Center. Art Voigt was involved in every alternative energy project at Crowder from 1978 to 2008. In those 3 decades, he laid the foundation for ventures in solar, ethanol, and wind projects. Art was the energy consultant for the MARET Center. And even today, he is working with several of our MARET students on the installation of various projects on this campus, as well as design projects. Dan Eberly was an instructor in alternative energy for many years, and then served as the MARET Center director from 2008 to 2010, when the design of this building was in full swing. He was a construction consultant for the MARET Center and played an active role in representing Crowder during the design phase of the project. Russ Hopper was the MARET Center director during the construction phase of the MARET Center and oversaw the commissioning of the multiple complex systems that are housed here. I'd also like to recognize J.E. Dunn. We have some representatives from them, from the construction manager company today, and I'm going to give them an opportunity to speak and share some comments. But as I mentioned earlier, this building was a $6 million investment. Approximately half of those funds were secured by Senator Roy Blunt. The remaining dollars were provided through generous gifts and donations. Crowder College is very fortunate to have local support from area businesses and individuals, and I want to specifically recognize Rudy and Dorothy Farber, LaRue Telephone, and Robert Hart for their contributions. I do want to share with you and let you know that we do have a few items for you today. We have some out in the lobby as well as here in the classroom. We have some coasters, so you're welcome to take those as a memento of today. And last school year, we reached several milestones here at the MARET Center. We celebrated in the 2017 and 2018 school year 40 years of alternative energy. We also celebrated the 25th anniversary of being designated by our state legislature as the Missouri Alternative and Renewable Energy Technology Center, or MARET for short. And it was also the 5-year anniversary of the building. And so we put together a little history book. You're welcome to take one of those with you today that showcases some of our, not all of the projects and accomplishments along the way, but many of the highlights of the past several decades. We do appreciate the representatives from KRJ Architects being on campus today. David Crom has been involved, as has been mentioned, in this project from the dream stage. I've asked him and Michael Liss, who's been my contact throughout the final stages of the LEED certification process, to say a few words today. We also appreciate David Atkinson from J.E. Dunn being here to celebrate with us today. J.E. Dunn was the construction manager for the project and coordinated all of the efforts of dozens of subcontractors, engineering firms, and suppliers, and let David share some comments with us today as well. Again, I'd like to thank each of you for braving the cold weather to be with us. Thank you for being on campus, and feel free to tour the facility and join us for refreshments following today's ceremony. Thank you.
I'm David Crom, and basically was having some recognitions as well. I think there's many people here who've made this facility what it is. The board at the college was well behind this, and and Kent Farnsworth is basically, in many ways, is his baby. In Art and I did plan to do a program of what spaces were going to be in this building in 2003, and in the solar house, and that program is pretty much the program in the building now. And that construction started in 2010, I believe, and Van Eberly. Young He is here from our firm. She basically, this building is the shape it is because of her and her design. We had Kirk Mesher with the mechanical engineers. They did way beyond what is expected to design the systems that are involved here, as did many people. Hardly any relationship between expenses and fees, I'm sure, with them as well as us. And we've had our structural engineer. There are some interesting things happening with the structure of this building. And it's holding up some dirt in the front, and it tends to push things over, and it resists it so far pretty good. And there's a man named Tom Harmon. He's at Washington University. He coordinated with us on a voluntary basis. He was the designer of the John Hancock building, the structural designer of the John Hancock building in Chicago. He quit, went down to Washington University, took a professorship there. We sat down and determined the shapes of this on the back of an envelope, and took some time to do that. We have lead consultants, daylighting. Jason Highline did a lot of work in studying the energy flows in the building and the daylighting and how the light gets distributed evenly. We have Mike Franks with us in the beginning, And I think, and I'm sure I'm missing people, but it's always a risk, I think, when you're doing this. And Rudy was with us in spirit and in many substantial ways, and others. But with many of these people, this building would not be here if it weren't for their efforts, and Rudy's is one of those people, I think. So basically, the only other thing I really have to say is that when we were designing it, we've had in mind that it's something that's really a developing thing. And if you see these beams, these and all the steel portions is what's holding the building up. The rest of it isn't holding anything up. It can be removed and replaced with something else. And that was a dream, I think, that people could come in on either students or to come in and make modifications to it. The other aspect of it is that we made the dimensions between the supporting beams 12 feet. And if someone were to prefabricate this top portion of it, for instance, it can be transported on a highway. And so there's, I think we try to include as many people as we could and as many part of the industry as we could. And hopefully, I think the building has, and the program here, has a good future. I did not discuss J.E. Dunn because Michael will.
I'm Michael Liss with KRJ. I think the main thing with this building, similar to a lot of projects, requires a lot of team members and a lot of teamwork. On this project, I think what was impressive is very early on, in addition to the conceptual ideas that were floating around and a lot of discussions that were happening, very early in the process, J.E. Dunn and the college organized the teams, and we had a lot of meetings as construction, as architects, as the owners, and there was a lot of interplay back and forth before we finalized the drawings. So once the drawings were finalized, and they went out to bid in November of 2010, then the J.E. Dunn orchestrated the bidding process, and construction began in March of 2011 with completion in January of 2012. Pretty fast schedule, and all along the way there was a lot of dialogue between the contractor, the owner, and us, so things could be tweaked and perfected and moving the building toward future directions. And I think that's a very key part to the MARET Center. It's a lab for learning, and it was when we were in the design phases, in the building phases, and for years to come. With the, I don't know if, I think you were one of the first in in Missouri with the wind turbine. So there are two places in Missouri that have that large wind turbine, and between Andrew and Chris and Melissa, there's a lot of study in terms of new energy things or how to augment the building. And I think part of it is the vision that was important, the passion, which I think was throughout the design process. I know from our end, and with Crowder, all the input, and J.E. Dunn, everybody was looking at it as how do we make it better? If there was a question about a detail in construction, we were on the phone with J.E. Dunn. We were working things out. Lee Grant, I believe, was the project manager for it, and Randy Kloiber was the construction manager, and there was just great teamwork all throughout. And the LEED process, I think, was interesting because we all thought It's a great facility. We were reasonable about our objectives toward the credits. We applied for 56 different points. Initially, they awarded 49. We said, wait a minute, we should have been toward the other end of the 56. There are really 69 total points that you can get. We were very realistic about what things were available to us either on the building or the site or things, and we pretty quickly identified these are the reasonable things, these are what we can achieve. I think it took us another year of working with the college, working with J.E. Dunn, working with the LEED certifier, working with TME, who was the mechanical engineer, and KRJ. We put together supplemental documents for an appeal. We had initially been awarded gold. We said we were at the top end of the gold spectrum, and we couldn't understand why certain things weren't awarded, one of which was innovation in design. And it was only a 1-point credit, but we thought, look at all the things that have happened in this building. And then Melissa came back and said, we got this patent. And another part of the innovation in design credit was, are you teaching what you're doing in addition to the building? Not just building a building, but it's got to be a live process. And so we documented with the help of the instructors here, Melissa, Amy, all the curricula that MARET is doing toward that end, and we showed that this is a live building. It's a laboratory for learning. The curriculum at Crowder reinforces it, and part of the building design was developed because of Crowder's thoughts about education. And then that was something, I think it was probably a 50-page document that we submitted for the appeal for this one credit in an innovation and design. And then they said, yeah, makes sense. You've got all these things going. We're going to give you that credit. There were other things as well, renewable, restoring the habitat. And there were some concerns that they had about, is there enough, are we impacting the native habitat? We contacted somebody from the botanical garden, talked with them about a better way to maintain the habitat, and should we do some alternate planting? He made some suggestions. Melissa said, of course, we're going to do it. You know, we're going to maintain it properly and reduce demand of manpower and resources to maintain the landscape. That was another credit that was granted. There was another credit in terms of energy, things I think, again, they looked at it and they said, well, we should have told you before, but you really need to have monitors at a certain height in the building. Even though you've got them in the system, we need them to be at this height. And we worked with Melissa, and she said, okay, we'll put them in, you know. And so that's where we are now. We have 53 of the 56 points that we were striving for to get platinum. And in August, we succeeded. And, I think it's a tribute to MARET and the whole team that there's that constant desire to keep improving and working with the building. And I'll turn it over to David at J.E. Dunn, and they are responsible for this beautiful structure going up and in a timely way, and they manage all the budget, and we're thrilled with it.
Thank you, Michael. Well, so I am David Atkinson with J.E. Dunn, and I was looking through some files and things for the project and realized that our contract for the project was dated December 1st, 2008. Now, for a contractor, that's a long time. But for us, this is literally a decade in the making, from contract to today's celebration. And so, to date, we've had the privilege of working with and working for Crowder College on 3 different transformational projects. We have Davidson Hall just across the way, Dawson Spencer Hall at the Webb City campus, and then of course the MARET Center here. And so we've just truly enjoyed this past decade working with the Crowder team. A question that I, for whatever reason, find myself answering on a somewhat regular basis is, so David, tell me, what are some of the most interesting projects you've ever been a part of? Well, this clearly has to be, one of those right at the top of that list. That it's unusual, it's unique, it's one of a kind, and but there's more than that. And so one of the things that I've begun to enjoy, I'm about 20 years into this commercial construction career, and I've really begun to enjoy more about what happens, as a result of the buildings we do, even more so than the buildings. I love buildings, right? That's what I went to school for, that's what I do for a living. I enjoy building stuff. But what happens on the inside is the really interesting part. And so, if you're building a manufacturing facility, it's really fascinating to see some raw materials come in one end and a finished product out the other. Or if you're building a data center, to see all the computer servers that are keeping businesses up and running and alive and behind the scenes. And that's fascinating to be a part of that. But what's different about the Crowder MARET Center is that this is not just the building that houses the laboratory. The building is the laboratory. Now, it also houses laboratories, so it's a laboratory that houses laboratories. And so from an educational standpoint, I know that what happens within the walls of the building is way more significant than the building will ever be. The educational process, the faculty, the students, the innovation, the new things that we don't even know yet that are going to come out of this facility, the patents that have already been, generated as a result of this process. That is so much more fascinating than the building itself, and it's a pretty fascinating building. And so for me, it's just a special project, knowing that the people inside and what happens inside should never be overshadowed by a building. But it's a pretty special building to be a part of. And so we thank you, we thank Crowder for the opportunity to be a little part of that. Thank the design team for being a great partner in that effort. And I would be remiss if I did not mention the skilled tradespeople, the men and women that physically poured their sweat, blood, and tears into the building to make things happen, those trade partners, those specialties, those skilled trades that make it happen. There would be nothing here without them. A lot of times we get recognition like we're getting today for our efforts, and although we like to think we played, a part in things, they deserve much of the credit. And so just a sincere thank you to the Crowder team for allowing J.E. Dunn to serve as your construction manager. Thank you.
Well, again, thank you, everyone, for coming. I have a little story about J.E. Dunn. Before I came to Crowder, I've been retired for 7 years, but I was in Kansas City, Kansas for 30 years, and we were developing a new technical education campus 5 blocks down from the main campus in an old Walmart box store and strip shopping center. And we started that process. J.E. Dunn was the construction manager. Started that process in 2010. In May of 2011, a little windstorm hit up north, and Range Line, especially the big box stores on Range Line, were especially susceptible because they had what was called freestanding walls, or I forgot exactly what the terminology was. But guess what we were trying to rebuild? The same type of facilities. We said, oh gosh, what are we going to do? J.E. Dunn says, well, you know what? We've had experience out in California with a material that goes on the walls and it helps make the facilities earthquake resistant. Nothing can be earthquake proof or tornado proof, but certainly earthquake resistant. We think it might work here. So sure enough, it did. We passed muster, and to come to find out, although it was being used in California, the product was actually made in Kansas. So go figure. Go figure. But leave it to J.E. Dunn to find it. Again, we thank you all for coming. Please join us for refreshments, and if you haven't done so, feel free to tour the facility. We'll have some leadership around and show you around. So again, have a great afternoon, and thanks for coming.